Okay, hi guys. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube Osego Codes. If you are new here or you've been here before, you know how we do it. So in this video, we'll make a continuation of the previous video that we did, and we're basically going to connect our Express API to a MongoDB database. And our database is not a local database, but instead we're going to use a cloud-hosted database. And in this case, we want to use Atlas, which is a data platform for developers. Now, we have the option of using MongoDB locally installed in our machine, but we chose to use the Atlas for several reasons. One of the reasons being is that for Atlas, we'll have our database in the cloud, which will give us an advantage over a locally hosted database. One, if you have it in the cloud, a number of things are taken care of out of the box. Number one, we have availability. With the cloud, our database will always be available, up and running. That is one. Number two, scalability. We can scale up and down based on the traffic that our application has. For example, when we have higher traffic, we can scale up. If we have lower traffic, we can scale down. Number three, availability across all regions. You know, when you're deploying your cluster in Atlas, you have the option of choosing the regions that you want your cluster to be replicated. For example, you can choose a region in Africa, a region in Asia, or a region in America, based on where most of your app users come from. That is one. That is another option that could make you choose Atlas over locally installed MongoDB. Another option or another reason for us choosing the Atlas is because of disaster recovery. You know, in Atlas, it automatically creates backups of the instances of your database. So in case there's a disaster, let's say one of the data centers is crashed or not working, then we are sure that our data is still available because of the backups that were made. Not number two, but another reason is that you see Atlas gives you a pricing model that is pay as you go, where you only pay for what you've consumed. And if you compare it to a locally installed database for MongoDB, even though the initial installation cost might be cheaper, but then the maintenance cost of maintaining the servers, maintaining the CPUs and power, and also ensuring security of this database is not guaranteed. That's why we will choose a cloud-hosted database over a locally installed database. Now, this is why in this video I'm using Atlas and Express. And then, if you're interested or you'd like to know how you can do this on your own, and that is what exactly I'm going to show you today, how to do it. So join me and let me show you. So hi guys, welcome back to this video where we are basically going to connect our Express API to a cloud-hosted database that is in the Atlas cluster. So first thing, what do? We need to create a directory in our desktop or any location where you want to have your project. So make directory and let's call it Mongoose. And then let's cd into that directory, cd mongoose. And then let's fire up our VS Code from inside that directory. That's type code space period. That will fire up your VS Code on the same folder. So once we are in the VS Code IDE, we want to initialize our Mongoose folder as a Node project. How do we do that? We do that using npm or pnpm or yarn. But in my case, I prefer using pnpm, and that's what we're going to use in this video. So in your terminal, type pnpm init. In short, initialize it as a Node project. So this will create a package.json file here. After which, remember, we are working with Express, so we need to install Express. We'll work with Mongoose. We need to install mongoose.env for working with environmental files. We also need to install Nodemon for watching our file changes. So back to your terminal here, type pnpm npm. Before that, let me just zoom in. Amazing. So in our terminal here, type npm install. We have mentioned Express, mongoose, .env. We also need daemon and enter. Sorry, there's a typo there. We need pnpm, not pnpm. So that will create a new folder here named node modules. So let's see that. pnpm is fast, and that's why I prefer using it. So you can see we have node modules here. So this folder contains all those packages that we'll be using in our project. So after which, we want to create our empty file or server file. So just type touch server.js. So we have it here, and let's now spin up our basic Express API. So first things first, import Express from Express. Then initialize the Express app by saying const app equals to Express. Express. Okay. Then app dot listen on port, any port number 3000, and then accept a callback function. Then you can log some message by saying app listening on port 3000. Also, you can have a root just to confirm if our server is actually up and running. A home root, actually just type app.get home, some callback function accepting a request and response parameter, and the callback function. Let's say I want to console log. This is the message from the server. Apart from logging that message, you can also send some message to the browser. Rest.send. They say hello from the server. Now that is great until this point. Now you can try and run. So to run our API, you simply type node and the name of the file, which is server.js. Sorry, what do we have? We have an error here. Warning to load an ES module, set type to module. Oh, I forgot to change this one to ES of type module. So how do you do that? Type here, type, then module. So basically, this one will allow us to use import statements instead of require. Okay. So if we come back and run our app again, it should be running. Amazing. You see, app listening on port 3000. Now, this is great and okay, but what happens when we now make a change here? Let's say 4000 instead of 3000. You see, nothing changes here. We have to come and stop the server and run it again. App listening on port 4000. Now, we want to eliminate this repetitive task, and that's where node daemon comes into play. So coming back to your script, in the package.json file, we want to have a script here. Remove the test because we don't have a test here. Instead, we want to have a script named dev, and the dev will use nodemon to run our server. Nodemon server.js. So basically, instead of having to type node server.js, we simply type pnpm run, dev, pnpm run dev, like we're running a script. So what nodemon does is that it watches for changes in our project and automatically restarts the server again and again. For every change that we make in a project, it will restart the server to keep on watching the changes. Basically, nodemon simply means a node monitor. So it monitors our node project. Yeah. So we stop the server here, and instead now what do? Run the script, which is pnpm run dev. Amazing. Now, app listening on port 4000. Great. So if we try and make any change here, let's say 6000, what happens? You see, it automatically watches for the changes and reruns our server. That is great. But now for something like the port numbers and database URIs, these are some sensitive data or information that we shouldn't leak to the public. So the best way of handling such kind of information is to have a .env file that stores all those sensitive data together. So what do? We'll create a new file in the directory and name it, let's say, touch.env. Now here's where we should now have our port. Port equals to 3000. Let's just do away with the spaces. We don't need the spaces here. Amazing. So port 3000. Now instead of having to type it here manually this way, we need to import the package that we install, that is .env. Now come and import .env from .env. Then after importing, we need to configure that .env. How do we do that? Simple. .env .config. That is the simplest way of configuring .env. Then now let's initialize our port to let's say const port. Now you equals to, now we want to reference the port variable that we have in our .env file here. So how do we do that? You type process.env .port. Now replace this value here with the port variable port, and then this one we can change it to a string template variable this way using $sign and the curly braces and call it port. Now coming back to terminal where our server was running, you can see it has changed automatically. Now let's try and change it to something else. Let's say 5000. Then let's do something like to have it up. What do we have? Oh, I have another app running on port 5000 somewhere. Okay, let's see. Already in use. So let's use something like 8080 and watch for that. 8080. Let's see. Amazing. Now you see it's automatic app listening on port 8080. Now once you have everything, you see our service up and running. The last thing that we want to do in our server, in our API here, is maybe just to tell it we are going to use let's have some middleware here. Middleware there, and let's say app. We can't have it there actually. This one has to come first. So also the app, we have to initialize it first before we use it. So app.use express.json. Now that's all we need for our simple Express API. The next thing is for us to connect our Atlas cluster to our API. So for that case, I would love to organize my code by creating a different folder for utils where we have logic, for example, for connecting to database, working with files. Now let's create a new folder. So make a directory and call it utils. Then cd into utils and then create a file touch, then call it db connect.js. So coming here, we have it already here, and the first thing is to import mongoose, which is the ORM mapper for Express mongoose. Then what else do we need? We need to import the .env file because we need to work with the Atlas connection string. So import .env from .env. As you can guess, what next? Configure .env.config. Then we need to have a value here for our Mongo URI. Mongo URI. Now, Mongo URI. So what is Mongo URI? Now, when connecting or working with the Atlas database, you have a connection string that allows you to connect to that cluster of your data instance in the cloud. So to get that connection string, you need to log into your Atlas account. Let's come here and log into our Atlas account. Assuming you already have an account, this is my account. You'll come to databases here, click on databases, and then click on connect. Then we want to connect our application to using a driver because that's where we get these languages and frameworks. Let's say in our case it's not driver. So come here because you're working with the cloud database. We need this connection string here. So copy all of the string and go back to your editor and paste it there. Now, once you paste it here, there are two things you need to do. Replace your password here, and just before this question mark here, you need to provide your database name. In this case, I'll just call it Mongo class. And my password, I can also give it here. Of course, I'll hide it. You won't see it. Amazing. So once that is done, go back to your dbconnect.js file here, and then we will say const mongo URI equals to what? Process dot env dot mongo underscore URI. And the next step is to now connect to the Atlas cluster. So how do we do that? We do that by mongoose dot, you can say const connect db equals to a function, then mongoose.connect, then it accepts a parameter which is the Mongo URI string, connection string, which is now our Mongo URI variable here. So let's type Mongo URI. After which we want to also include some mongoose hooks, connection hooks, that will be able to tell us when we are connected, disconnected, or there's an error connecting to the database. So how do we do that? We have three hooks actually. We have connected, on disconnected,
thank you guys
on error. So let's have all of them here so that we can gracefully handle our connection to the cluster instance. So mongoose dot connection dot on, and the first one is connected, which accepts a callback function that allows us to log some message. Let's say successfully
by simply clicking on the bell icon so that
connected
every time I drop a
to
new
the
video,
Atlas
you will be notified and be the
cluster.
first person to watch
that is it.
that release.
The second one is
for watching,
mongoose.connection.on, then disconnected, which also accepts a callback function that allows us to log some message. Let's say disconnected from the database. And lastly, we have the last hook, mongoose.connection.on error, which also accepts a callback function that allows us to log some message. Let's say error connecting to the cluster. So that's all you need. After which, we need to export this function. So how do you do that? Export default connect db. Okay. So once you have that export default connect db, you also see that our server is still up and running. So we can come and import it to our main server file here. So just before the get root here, we can call the function. How do we call it? Connect db. So just type connect db, but of course it's a function, we need to call it. And also remember, typing this in this code will automatically import it. You see, import connect db from utils db connect. But since we're using module es, we have to provide the extension of that file, which is .js, and this error should be gone. Connected. Now, once it's connected to the database, you will see one of the messages being logged here. Either successfully connected to the database or to the Atlas cluster, that's if it's successful, or disconnected whenever we have a disconnection after connecting. That could be because of network error or something. And if there's an error connecting, we should be able to get this error connecting to the database. But in this case, I am optimistic that you are connected. So you see, successfully connected to the Atlas cluster. So that is how simple you can connect your Express API to an Atlas cluster using Mongoose, which is an ORM module for Express and MongoDB. So thank you guys for watching. Bye.